We're live, I think. I'm always like, I'm never sure if we're live or not because there's like this 20-second delay. So you never know what's going to happen.
Is this thing working?
Fuck off. But yeah. So welcome to the stream, everyone. No one. I think we're live.
Cheers.
Yeah. So with us today, we have Joona Hoikkala. That's how you pronounce his name in Finnish. The creator
With
of
a Finnish
Fuzz.
accent, apparently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi.
The creator of Fuzz. Fuzz Faster, you fool. And he used to work for EFF. But he is now becoming smarter, so he's going to start working for us in Visma Product Security instead.
Whoa. But yeah, I'm really excited to join you guys. But yeah.
And we were supposed to have Stek with us today as well, but I don't see him yet, so maybe he will join later.
Yeah, the second best. You have me. That's you.
So instead, we have Per Olsson here, my colleague, who is going to be a substitute Stek until he joins. So yeah. So actually, right now we're all we're only Visma product security people right now. So yeah, Joona, do you want to say a few words about who you are in addition to my introduction?
Yeah, sure. So hi everybody. I'm Joona. Johoi. And I do a lot of security
Adult videos. I'm sorry.
I haven't seen any, but if you have, please share them. Anyway, so I do a lot of like a security related stuff, both defensive and offensive. For the past few years, I worked at EFF developing Let's Encrypt client called CertBot.
And EFF is Electric Frontier Foundation, right?
Yeah.
Can you just give it a quick overview of what that is for the viewers?
So yeah, EFF is so they are fighting for the rights of privacy for the greater public. They're doing great job in multiple different fronts. They are helping people with individuals with legal stuff, as well as fighting bad laws and things like that. So really a foundation everybody should back.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing great job. The technology team there, where part of which I worked, developed some of the kind of privacy enhancing pieces of software like CertBot, which makes
Let's Encrypt
managing and installing the Let's Encrypt certificates a breeze. They are also doing great job with some browser extensions that people might be familiar with, like a Privacy Badger and HTTPS Everywhere. Those are probably the pieces of software that you might know and should use.
So they should come by default.
Yeah, they should be by default. Well, actually, they shouldn't, because all of the kind of things that these pieces of software do really should not be necessary in the first place. So
exactly,
they are kind of
right.
mitigations to some of the shortfalls of different pieces of software or protocols or standards or the current state of implementation.
Yeah, you're completely correct.
Yeah. So in the perfect world, none of these would exist.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But in a perfect world, we wouldn't have hunger either. So, or wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know that you
yeah.
work from home a lot.
Yep.
And now that we have this situation ongoing, how do you keep yourself sane?
Sane. Well, I have 3 kids, so they are kind of. I don't have the kind of you know
Same by default?
sanity affecting like a negative points where you would be like a month and a half alone at home staring at the wall or the computer screen. So we have a lot of action going on all the time. But in addition to that, well, um, even when even in times without the plague, I enjoy board games. So now we have been taking the board games online with my friends. It's suboptimal, but it's something at least. And I brew beer, something I enjoy a lot, both brewing and actually enjoying the results of the fermentation.
And here's Turkusek in the chat.
Yeah,
So
yeah. There's
since
there's a lot of like a security related community stuff going on all the time in the kind of the small Finnish information security sphere. We
do you
have been
miss
doing
that? Like the actual physical meetings?
yeah, I definitely do. But fortunately, we have been able to meet up virtually, basically weekly. We have been doing like the hack the box boxes, chatting and drinking beer, and yeah, it's been nice, and I hope that will continue even to the times after the plague. So, yeah,
I love
as an
that you
addition
call
physical.
I love that you
So
call it
really,
the plague. It's just
Yeah.
so I guess really nothing has changed for you. You used to work from home, and you are familiar with virtual meetings. So, but I guess you used to be on a lot of conferences, like as a speaker and things like that. Now you have to do that at home, but you still don't get to meet people. Do you miss that?
Yeah, I do. I definitely do. I really love the hacker community in Europe. We have a lot of great stuff going on here in Finland. There's the Chaos Computer Club is doing a great job in Germany, and basically Europe wide in that sense as well. There's a lot of things in the progress, but unfortunately, the kind of current situation mandates that it will take a little bit longer for stuff to continue as it were. So, but yeah, I definitely miss conferences. Not the actual conferences per se, but the people.
Yeah.
all right. So did we miss anything in our awesome introduction of you and some of the stuff that you said? Is there
Oh
something
yeah,
else we should know?
yeah. So currently, I got a grant. So grant to work on one of my defensive security open source software projects, which is Acme DNS, which helps with the security of Let's Encrypt, or actually Acme DNS validation automation process. So a foundation in Finland called FUG Foundation, Finnish Unix Users Group Foundation, is supporting my work on that, and I'm really
Yay!
thankful for them for that. So I'm currently working for a proper Acme DNS client. It will be open source under MIT license. So
And that was the same principle how the search bot also worked. Like you also had a grant, right?
yeah, so it's not a standalone client for Acme, but it's a client for Acme DNS, which is a piece of software that acts as a DNS server that you delegate the validation of the Acme DNS token to, and to communicate with that and to integrate with the currently available clients. That's the piece of the software that will be the Acme DNS client. So in order to leverage the already existing Acme clients, it's pretty good thing to have.
Before we go deeper into stuff like this, first of all, I just got word from Stek that he's gonna join at some point pretty soon, but he has some problems with his computer. But luckily we have a substitute Stek here, so hats off to you. But before we get in deeper to Acme DNS and ffuf and stuff like that, I'm really interested in knowing, because you're kind of like, you're a developer, you've done all kinds of stuff, but what were you like as a kid? Like, when when you were a kid, did you like break shit like I did, or did you like disassemble things? Were you curious? What kind of, like, if you think back to your childhood, is there any sort of features and things that you did that would kind of suggest that you would become kind of like a hacker dude later on in life? That's a long question.
I think, I think for that, we actually need to kind of try to
a long time ago
define the term hacker, because for me, the term hacker actually means person that's really like really interested in like how things work, regardless of the information being publicly available or not. And I'm like, I have always been this kind of really geeky in a way that everything is really interesting. I really want to get to the bottom of things and understand how things work. And that's like, that's how my brain basically works. So when I really grok how things, like it's easier to connect the what you already know to the specifics of a implementation of something when you really get to know the implementation. So when the time goes on, you gather more information about different contexts, not everything being like a computer related or something like that. So you are able to grok things a lot faster and connect the dots and figure out things about stuff that maybe other people don't.
And it doesn't have to be in a bad intention. I know media, for example, often used to present hackers as like the evil guys. That is most of the case, not the true picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for your input, Stek.
But yeah, in addition to that, I of course broke a lot of electronics while trying to create some cool stuff, like without the knowledge of, like without enough knowledge of the electronics and things like that. So, but yeah,
it's better to break electronics and not laws.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
Please elaborate on the well.
So, yeah, because not all laws are good. Like a definition of something being a law doesn't make it right, doesn't make it
or outdated.
Ethical. Yeah,
to put it less.
Yeah, so I think that just to say something is better than breaking the law, we need to understand that even though we might have only like or for the most parts good laws in like countries where we live in. It's not the same.
Yeah, but let's take censorship. I guess we can all agree on that is something that is not good, and breaking censorship would technically be breaking the law. But I think that's like a good exception that most can agree is a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, if it fits your ethical and moral bill, I guess.
Yeah, but that's really like a difficult topic because not all the kind of perceptions of ethics are kind of good for good anyway either. So let's change subject. So it's a really hairy topic, and we won't be able to dive into that well enough.
Do you have a specific memory when you were a kid of something that you broke or disassembled or created or?
Yeah, well, the I created a lot of I stripped down a lot of like old electronics with a small lamps, small speakers, and wired them up in a really kind of weird and probably dangerous way to a analog this stereo system. So I had basically more speakers, blinking lights, and things like that, and blew most of those up at some point as well. But that's one. The other, of course, being we got a modem and doing like the all the the usual stuff that I at that time
like
I
you're talking about the C65K, right?
Yeah, no. It's like I had
Even
28,
earlier.
28
Okay, yeah.
or I think the first one was 14.4, and then 28.
So 14 kilobits per second.
Yeah.
14,000.
So the kind of the usual stuff that felt that like was something really like huge, like can't remember. Was it ATM 0, which would mute the speaker in the modem that allowed me to call to the BBSs after the when my parents were sleeping. So that was one. Of course, that felt like a great hack at the time. Of course, the truth would be revealed when the phone bill came. And yeah, I was lucky that my parents were always really like a supportive. We got at some point, I believe they got really tired of the phone lines being like busy all the time, or like breaking their ears when lifting the phone, and of course breaking the connection. So we were like a really early adopters of ISDN technology. So our local ISP provided like ISDN connectivity, like in the first wave of that technology taking over Finland. And I got basically a digital line that was still like a modem speeds.
Did you have two lines?
Yeah, of course. There's always the two line thing would be that the first line will be the digital one, and the second line will be the analog one. So if I wanted to use the dual lines, it would then again reserve the actual phone line. But
welcome,
yeah, so
Sturk.
yeah, hi.
Hi.
Hello.
I'm so sorry that I'm late. I'm even 20 minutes late for this. I had so much major issues with cameras. I kind of think that I would know how cameras work, but apparently I don't.
Yeah, what
Now
the
we have
fuck,
the
man?
real stuff.
Yeah, now you can take your shades off, dude. It's okay now.
Yeah, we had like a substitute stick.
Yes.
Substitute.
Yeah. So if you ever need someone to replace you for something for a while, you can always call up Pat and he can like be your
Pat is
substitute.
I saw the Twitter feed the other day. I'm like, holy fucking smoke! I got the best doppelganger in the world, and he's way much prettier than I am. So I should definitely go down for Pat any day, any day. Thank you. Wow.
But now we have the real
Thank
deal,
you
so.
for.
Now
Okay,
we
so
have the
continue
real
on.
deal. Yeah, we were just talking about Joona's childhood.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, because
Oh,
it's always
yeah.
nice to know what people are, how they become who they are. So
yeah.
he was telling us stuff about how he broke shit.
Used to break things when he was a kid.
Like
you always
laws
been-
and stuff too.
I don't really want to ask you, how old are you, Joona? You don't need to say exactly the year or what kind of generation are you? Like
I'm
60s,
almost 40. I'm
70s,
almost 40.
80s, 90s?
I'm almost 40.
Almost 40. Okay, cool. So you're still from the wear scene, BBS, kind of.
Oh yeah.
You nudged on that area.
Yeah. So yeah,
Cool.
from the BBS time, by the way, my first Linux distro that I used as a main operating system was Red Hat 5, which is like
sick.
Red Hat went started the whole numbering thing from beginning with the Red Hat like an enterprise Linux thing.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that was back in 90 something, I believe.
Cool. Did you guys ever get on the whole Slackware thing though?
I was on the Slackware thing, yeah.
Yeah, at some point I really didn't at any point get really on that, but I tried to use that as my main operating system for a while. I tried basically a lot of distros back in the day.
Feels extremely masochistic to run Slackware now when you look back at it.
I haven't tried that in like 20 years. So
I don't recommend you do it either. So
Fuzz released in 2016, so it's kind of abandonware now.
yeah,
I'm impressed that it actually was up for like 26 years.
Sick though. Yeah, those were the days. Okay, Shiloh, cool. Good times.
So yeah,
what have you guys otherwise been talking about?
that's pretty much it. So
Also,
far.
like mental health, how people are staying sane here in a situation like this, and Joona's background.
Cool.
So
Good
so
stuff.
fast forward like from the background to fast forward to the software side of things. So at the end of the 90s, I was playing this online game called Action Quake, which was built on a Quake 2 engine. And I had a really shitty computer that was basically combined from the old pieces from my friends' PCs. So I had to kind of try to get all of the performance out of those. So I kind of wandered into the wonderful world of Linux kernel patching. It was they had the Con Colibas, who was a doctor actually, who just did like Linux kernel stuff as a hobby. So he had these really good like a performance scheduler changes to the kernel. And in addition to that, I had to always manually go. There was no actual patch for it, but I had to manually go and change the mouse driver for every version I built, because it was the age of PS2 mouse ports, and the default rate was like a 40 hertz, I believe, and it was too choppy for the FPS games, so I had to manually change it to 200. So
did you have one of those mice that has like this, basically you boil an egg and then you take the inner circle of the egg and put it inside the mouse?
Yeah, boiled egg mouses, so all over. Yeah, they were the best.
Still were like, and you had to like, if something just when it turned a little bit sluggish, you took it apart and you were sitting there like,
Yeah. Like a toothpick. Had to pick out all the-
and especially had this little build-up on the wheels, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
who the fuck put all this shit in there?
But it was really like a pleasurable when it came off in a single piece, you know.
Yes.
Oh my god.
It's like pulling a scab, right? You're sitting there poking at it. And you're like, oh yeah. And then you know this bastard is gonna be fast. And you're back at it again.
Well, the young viewers won't get this reference. It's kind of like, you know, with VHS where you had to like roll it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Manual tracking, dude.
Yeah.
Manual tracking. Okay, vintage hardware boys, apparently. Love that.
Are you saying that we're old, Pat? Because I think you're the youngest
I'm
one.
still the youngest one, yeah, but I've seen a lot of changes, like when it comes to storage, like VHS to DVDs, and like the 6.5 inches disk drives to 3.2 or whatever it was, until it got removed, and now we have everything in the cloud. So even though I'm the youngest, I've still seen a lot of changes. I'm just waiting for what's going to happen in the next 30 years.
Yeah, it feels like it's accelerating all the time.
Mm-hmm.
My kids were asking like, why is the phone icon the way it is? It makes no sense to them, obviously.
Oh,
or the disk icon for save, you know.
Yeah. Have you 3D printed the save icon?
It's fucked up. We're so old.
But then eventually you grew up, Joona, right? And you started to work. Let's talk about your background. Like what you used to do.
Yeah, I have been doing like a software stuff for a long time, almost 20 years now.
Was your education also in IT?
Sorry?
Was your education also in IT?
No, I don't have any formal education on the area. I was basically just hacking stuff.
Yep.
And really interested in things. I learned programming from the games mostly.
By the way, this game, was it like a reverse engineer of the actual game, or?
Well, yeah, that came later, but the first it was like a scripting. The Quake had a scripting engine in it, so I scripted a lot of like these communication things in it. And afterwards, I was an admin in a lot of like servers in Finland. So I coded a really, really shitty thing that kind of so there was a lot of like toxic players even back then. There was some cheaters and things like that. So the admins had a chance to ban people from a server, of course. So the issue was that because there were, of course, multiple servers in Finland, the issue was that the cheaters would just move to another one and the ban would be automatically lifted in an hour or two. So I coded a piece of software that connected to the servers using the UDP. It's Archon protocol. And it basically requested the ban list from the server and shared it with the other Finnish server. So if you got banned from one, you got banned from all of those.
Oh.
And it had a web UI that you could like see which IP addresses were banned at what time. And
do you have a picture of that web UI? I would love to see that.
No, but I can tell you, like it's more even. So it's so much more horrible than you can even think. So it's the horrible part is not the web UI. The horrible part is the actual code, because at that point I had
PHP?
no idea. I had no idea how to deal with the binary protocols. My like a programming language of choice at that point was PHP.
Of course.
So I was reading UDP sockets and actually, issuing the Archon commands was not an issue, but I was actually doing like string parsing from the results. to get what I needed from the responses. So,
and I guess you had to write your own parser.
yeah, basically, and yeah, it was bad. It was super bad, and but yeah, it worked. So kind of pretty hacky software project. That was at the time I thought it was really good, really cool.
But it's pretty similar to my background. I also started in gaming. So me and a few friends were playing a online game, and like everyone was downloading cheat software. But I was like, no, it must be something fishy about this. How hard can it be? And I started to write like some easy scripting, like sending keystrokes and reading pixels on the screens. And then I started moving into memory editing, and well, a lot of the things was actually client side, so I could like add buffs and things like that to my own character without having like a priest to give me the buffs. And then I became a admin on a private server, and we wrote also like a lot of anti-cheats. So I actually started with cheating myself, and then I moved into anti-cheats, and then we released a auto loot. I wrote an auto loot because everyone else was using auto loot anyways. So we just released it for the public. Now everyone had it.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Sneaky people.
Yeah.
Goddamn hackers.
But yeah, from basically from there on, I kept on learning like well, I at that point I had used like Linux as my primary distro or primary operating system for a long time, and I learned a lot of like a programming just as a hobby. Like I really liked that, and when my wife got a place to study in Turku, we moved here, and I just asked on a few IRC channels that I was on at that point if somebody had worked for me, and
And they had?
yeah, of course they had. It was like they took me for like a half a year. Let's see what you can do, and after the half a year, I basically stayed, and from there on, so it was a company that did like a web CMS system in the beginning of 2000, like somewhere there. Like everybody else at that time, they had their own like a CMS software that I coded some modules to, and at the same time, I got familiar with the other like a hosting stuff like DNS, email stuff, and all the your typical stuff like FTP administration, HTTP stuff, all that, and stayed there for a while. Then I moved to another there was a company that bought like a half of my hours each month while I was working there, and at some point I changed to full-time working to them, and that company did and still does consultancy for newspapers, large and small. And I did that for next 10 years, working on different backend stuff, integrations, everything you can imagine.
So sysadmin kind of gig?
Yeah, it's like it's more. It was more like a software development, but
cool.
I ended up helping with their IT teams with the system administration a lot.
I guess it was small team also, so then you do everything anyway. So
Yeah, like did some like a project management stuff, software architecture, actual like a security stuff, defensive stuff, all that.
Cool.
And then I just like stumbled upon a tweet that described a thing called Let's Encrypt, something that's upcoming in a year or so, and that they need help with the client software. It's open source, and if you know Python, just come and check it out. At that point, I had got a lot of experience in Python as well, so I checked their GitHub repo and figured out a few things I could contribute in, and started contributing basically. Found myself in weekly like developer meetings quickly, and after a year or so, they got a grant that allowed them to hire me full time.
I really like the way that you kind of how you ended up working for EFF is that you stumbled upon a tweet. That was like the most memorable moment. I stumbled on this tweet, and then suddenly shit started happening. And I was working for EFF.
That's basically my life. It's like for the first time in my life, I was actually applying for a job this spring. I have been I have just basically ended up in jobs before that.
Well,
such a career person.
Stumbling everywhere.
yeah.
But I'm curious, Joe. Were you on EFF when Franz dropped the bug?
Yes, I was.
That he had.
Oh wow, that like I was both. I was at the EFF, and I was giving a talk about Acme DNS, I think, in 2 weeks of time when Franz dropped that thing. And the funny part was that at that point, our biggest plugin for the certbot, the most used one, was the Apache plugin. I think it still is, but and that's that's what I've been mostly contributing to. So the issue was that Franz found this issue that some shared hosting providers had in their implementation that allowed you to misuse the certificate validation process for TLS SNI, which would basically provide the validation token in the SNI headers of the TLS handshake. And the issue was that the Let's Encrypt, of course, because being responsible, they figured out that there's no way that they can, in like a short enough time, they can make the shared hosting providers to actually make their or pull their shit together, basically. So they had to disable that whole validation method completely.
Yeah, I remember that was the kind of the fix in the end. It's like, okay, we're not going to sort this one out.
Just remove it.
Yeah.
And at that point, I think the Apache plugin had hundreds of thousands of users, and the only validation method it supported was TLS SNI. So
yummy,
yummy indeed. So in our hands, we have these huge amount of people that depend on our software to work. So it's like they depend it to work as a cron job without the user or the administrator interaction. And suddenly the thing that makes it work is not there anymore. So we were really I think our team did really awesome job. So we implemented completely a new validation method for both Apache plugin and the Nginx plugin, and made sure that
in what time? How fast did you do it?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was high pressure.
Yeah. And it's the Apache thing. It's kind of hairy and easy to get wrong, and we were able to pull it off in addition to making it kind of completely transparent, the migration process. So for the users, it of course meant a huge change in the kind of in the work, in the flow, in the background, what was happening. But I think we got we did awesome job. So that at all the time that we were working on that, I was supposed to actually prepare my talk in Disobey conference in Finland about the Acme DNS, and I think I wrote most of that in a train to the conference after sleeping way too short nights.
Yeah, and I believe you were a bit drunk as well. That's fine.
No.
How many times have you presented at DCB? Is it like 3 or 4 times now?
Let's see. Okay, so
I met you in 2018. I know.
yeah, I think I have been presenting there. First one was about the Let's Encrypt and Certbot. The second one was about the Acme DNS stuff. Yeah, and this year I did FFUF workshop. So 3 times. Yeah.
Fuff.
Yeah.
That brings us to fuff.
Yeah.
Can we fuff
the
faster?
Feb.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Puff.
How did that happen?
So I'm a big fan of CTFs and things like that. So like basically challenges. So I think I was actually working on disobey badge challenge. So every year there's a puzzle that you are able that if you are able to solve that, you get to buy a cheaper and a lot cooler ticket and badge. So you get the hacker badge instead of the normal user one, and it's cheaper than the normal admission, which is super cheap as well. But kind of it's a status
It's
thing
like-
or like a
I think it's
challenge
like
thing.
50 euros or something, like the normal.
Yeah, the
ticket.
hacker thing is like a 15 euros cheaper or something like that. So,
Yeah.
I think it's
anyway.
money for students.
so I was working on the challenge. It had a few web things, and already in that point, I was kind of frustrated with the current tooling available. There was a bunch of different tools like a GoBuster, WFuzz, Derby, and Dirbuster being the kind of old and trusty ones. But all of them had like some sort of shortcoming. And at the time, I really enjoyed the GoBuster. It was super fast. It was good, but it lacked a few things. A few things that WFuzz, for example, had like a fuzzing headers and things like that. So and filtering, and I can't remember all the actual features. So of course, as a good open source citizen, I went to the GoBuster repo and like a cloned it,
made it better.
checked how to make it better. So I figured it out, and it's not a big task. So before I made the whole of course everything begins with a proof of concept code. That's not really for the public consumption. So I went to the repo and checked the things out, how it was. So there was this huge refactoring PR open, like 1,000+ lines that had been open for months. And I asked in that thread, discussion thread in the pull request, I asked if I should base my changes on this refactoring PR, so the upcoming base code, or the current master. And
what was the response you got?
The response, unfortunately, or I don't know, was that please don't. This is huge, and kind of we are encumbered by we need to get this in, but please don't submit anything for now. So I wrote my own from the get-go.
But it's still based on GoBuster?
No, it's not. It's written from the scratch, and it's like it doesn't even have any external dependencies right now. It's like it's completely written against the Golang's standard library. But I have a few features that will most likely introduce a first external dependency of the history of FAB.
Maybe we should get into those, but before we get into those, I want to ask you one question, because at one time you told me that ffuf is feature complete, and now you're introducing more features. What's going on, dude?
That's a really good question, and I might also, yeah, it's basically. So okay, it's not feature complete. I have to admit, I was at fault there. So
It's going to be ffuf plus.
yeah, well, yeah, ffuf plus is already there. Somebody wrote
Yeah.
a batch script.
Even faster, you fool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, so
And you need a subscription. No.
yeah, ffuf as a service. So yeah, there's a few things that have frustrated me personally lately, like a lack of CSRF token, like a retrieval. That's one, and then there are few things that I feel that the whole kind of FFUF workflow is lacking completely. So the first thing,
I just to cut you off there, I seem to remember us working on a Hack the Box challenge where I was asking you, like, how can I do this CSRF thing with ffuf? And you were like, well, first you have to like write 50 lines of code, and then you have to insert it in here, and then you just put that there, and then you just kind of run these commands, and then it just works. And then it didn't work, and then you were like, oh shit, wait a second. There's something missing here. I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
Did that somehow spark your enthusiasm into adding more features?
No, really, at that point, I still thought that it's kind of from a software architecture point of view, the script and kind of everything that happens outside of the actual request, the actual fuzzing request that can be done outside of the ffuf should be done outside of the ffuf. That's basically to keep the core code simple and
fast.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's the thing that actually sparked my interest to implementing that stuff to ffuf itself. So the issue with scripts is that ffuf is pretty fast, but what is not fast is spawning sub processes, and each request in that case would spawn a sub process that would first fetch the CSRF token and then to create the actual request after that. So that would like slow down the process like a tenfold, I think, making it slow.
So how important is the fast part? Do you have like a regression test, benchmarking, making sure it doesn't get slower, or
No,
you just
no,
have
no,
it in the back of your head?
No, I'm the sole kind of maintainer right now, so I'm not super concerned about it being fast. It's like it's fast enough. So I'm not concerned about like drops of like a few percent of speed.
I think we've experienced the speed of ffuf quite a few times in our bug bounty program where the servers have died. So it's the most used browser for us. So just don't make it faster, please.
But yeah. So anyway, there are some legit dangers there. For example, with when you're dealing with HTTP2 requests, and you have like some slow endpoint, like let's say password validation. That's like you deal with slow crypto there, and you're able to like make so many requests that will basically kill any server or any infra. So there are like legitimate issues there. But yeah, I won't make it faster. So yeah.
So quick about ffuf and all of these tools. So you have released a lot of tools, like we talked about Certbot before and ffuf.
Certbot was not my tool. I was part of the team, but
but I know we are all from the Nordic countries, and we are often very humble and we don't brag. But do you feel proud about all of the things that you have contributed to the community? How does it make you feel? Like that so many people are using.
It makes me feel good, but none of these projects are like groundbreaking. they are mostly like they are making the usability better. They are making things easier to approach. They're not groundbreaking per se.
No.
But yeah, I feel really good that people are actually enjoying them, so they are getting enough views, and that basically tells me that I did something right somewhere. But yeah,
I'm using it every day. Every day,
Yeah.
I burp and ffuf is my go-to toolkits every day.
And you always,
So-
when people are making this list, they always okay, they're mentioning Tom Nom Nom and they are mentioning you.
Yeah, Tom is he's a superhero. So I'm really
I'm so blessed to have Tom in my team disturbance. So every time I need something, I'm this weird grip thingy or something I need to. Just the other day, I was doing something with ffuf. And he's asking, he's like, I have this half tool here, blah, 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 blah. And he just gives it to you.
Yeah.
I saw this tweet was about Tom. I think it was something along the way that every time I think about a tool, I always go to Tom's repository on GitHub and see if he done it first.
Yeah.
And most likely he has.
Yeah.
That's how it is. That's amazing. I love it. He's at Detectify now. I think he really enjoys that.
Yeah, I'm going to listen to it talk. I think it was today or tomorrow. Never mind. It's probably recorded.
Probably.
Yeah.
So, Joona, can you spill some tea on the features?
Oh,
what can we
sure.
expect?
So there's a few things coming up. First, I find myself basically using at least half of my ffuf command line is the same every time. So I'm going to introduce a feature that allows you to create, a configuration file or ffuf.rc file that you can make your defaults, create your defaults to. But in addition to that, that's and you have your defaults there, and then you can overwrite anything on the command line. So defaults come from your ffuf.rc file. The next part will be it's a separate piece of software that's like a ffufdb that stores all your ffuf run results. So you're able to configure your ffufdb address or credentials to your ffuf.rc file, and every run results of every run will be stored in the database, and that way you will be able to combine things up and actually form a relatively good overview of your target over the time.
Nice.
I feel like I'm missing out things. I feel it's currently cumbersome to combine the results of multiple runs.
Yeah. What database engine are you using, or is it just any engine or
any? Any is MySQL, PostgreSQL. I like PostgreSQL myself, or SQLite, but the SQLite has an issue when dealing with Go, and that's that there is no native Go library for SQLite. So you have to rely on a C binding. So you need to have libraries on your machine, and they are hard dependencies there. So probably it will be a PostgreSQL and MySQL or MariaDB nowadays.
That is perfect.
And combined with that, so I was talking about the Acme DNS that I'm maintaining, and I will be dedicating more time in the coming months to it. So that's essentially a DNS server. So that will be combined to the ffuf thing in a way that it will provide you with a self-hosted responder functionality where you can catch all the callbacks to DNS records, and you will be able to do things like like it will have the HTTP server, and everything will be like because I have done pieces of software that actually already has the functionality, and I know it's super easy to implement. So it's like a really easy. You add two like DNS records and press go, and you have like a fully fledged HTTP server, DNS server on that have the like a proper valid certificate on it, and is able to answer and log every every request, be it DNS or HTTP request that comes its way.
And why would you want to do that?
So there are a lot of like payloads that call home, and you're able to basically figure out some of the like SSRF payloads or XSS payloads are firing when you see them calling back, even though you might not see other like things like a blind.
Cool. How will you deal with that? Because I've been playing around with the whole concept of automating XXE and SSR fuzzing, right? And I'm using like external providers like my personal burp collaborator and stuff like that. And you're automating this shit. So you're putting it on at night and you have this massive word list with all these endpoints that's going through, and you wake up in the morning and you realize I have no idea what fucking hit this box. So I had to implement like a secondary word list that takes all the URLs, makes hashes out of those, and just adds that as a word list inside your script. So it adds that as the subdomain to the burp collaborator. So I get a unique identifier for the subdomain and the request that I was sending out. So I can get back and see whatever that hit. Because otherwise you're sitting there like blind, like, okay, I got this URL, no idea what hit.
Yeah, so that's kind of because I can make changes to ffuf, and we have the file called ffuf.rc at that point. It makes it pretty simple, actually, because you're able to configure your ffuf DNS like a domain-based domain name there.
Yeah.
And you will have a new kind of functional keyword for ffuf, which would be like a ffufdb or whatever. And that would be substituted with the sequence number of that request. In your word list. So combined with the ffufdb, you will have basically the DB is able to store all the payloads for each sequence number, and you will be able, if there will be a callback, it will be able to basically point that to an exact payload that you send out.
Perfect. Please build that. Can I have it tomorrow?
No, not tomorrow.
No.
So you seem to have a lot of tools already in progress, but is there any tool that you want to write that you just haven't done yet?
Yes, and it's like I'm going to. So that's that will be combined to ffuf as well. So oftentimes I find it pretty cumbersome to fuzz with like a complex payload. Let's say you have your word list, and you want to, let's say, URL encode the actual like input from your word list. Then you want to include that within a JSON structure, for example, and then you want to base64 encode all of that and add that to a request. And I don't know like I don't know if there's tool for that right now, but I haven't figured out one yet. So
you want both a template language and logic.
Yes. So I would like to make it like so we have the ffuf.rc file coming, so it would have a similar one. So you can make your custom kind of keyword for it. Like let's say the tool will have its built-in stuff like a URL encode, URL decode, whatever, like a JSON encode, what you have, like all your basic stuff, and you can chain them. So like a natural language, you can just tell the tool name, which will be like something like a penc, payload encoder, whatever. You can tell it to first URL encode, then base64 encode. So the command line would be like you pipe stuff to it, and the command line would be like penc base64 URL encode, and it would output you the kind of result of that chain. And by configuring your own templates in the RC file, you can use the template name as a part of the chain. So that would be a standalone tool, as well as a library that I will use within ffuf. So you can basically give ffuf the encoding chain as a parameter.
It's really like, I mean,
Awesome.
I've seen you work, and I've seen your screen when you work, and you love piping everything to everything. So I understand where this is coming from the pipe master. So,
Yeah. But to be fair, you die a bit inside every time I fire up Vim. So
yeah, I still can't exit that.
Yeah, we still like to joke about you not leaving, exiting Vim yet, Joachim.
No. I have a pile of computers on my backyard. They're still in Vim.
You get a new one each time.
That's amazing. I love that. But when you say you like to pipe stuff, is it that you love to one-line stuff, or is it like you don't like writing your scripts, or what do you mean?
I like to ad hoc stuff, and usually there are like a lot of good like a GNU tools to do that, as you have probably seen Tom work. So you know, it's pretty effective when you know that stuff. So I really enjoy using that because it's readily available everywhere and really effective.
Yeah, I think for Joona, when he's doing CTFs, it's kind of like Picasso making art. You know, he has to look good.
I don't think Picasso is that cursing that much, or was cursing that much while doing it.
But I've seen some of these tweets with like security one-liners. Some of them are good, but they work like 75% of the time, and then as soon as you want to introduce some kind of complex thing, it doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. They are not like they are never kind of productive. Well, never is the wrong word, but for me, they are not ever for
no error handling, no nothing.
Yeah, they're basically just ad hoc. Do this thing quickly, right here, right now.
Yeah, I think I'm just doing the same thing like you do. I have no developer background, so for me it's like I'm just skidding tools together, like do the things that I want them to do because I have this idea what I want to do, and somebody's made this other tool, and I kind of just mesh them all together, and then eventually, voila, bugs come out. And I just love that process of just taking these things together because I understand logic. I'm from a very network logic kind of infrastructure guy. I don't need to write Windows to do my shit. I know how kind of things work. So taking all these tools together, just piping through stuff through them, creating these worldlies, gripping that thing, sending that over there, piping to the next one, and then eventually whoop, something comes out. And you're like, yes. Is it effective? No. Is it? Am I doing it the wrong? Absolutely.
Is it easy to debug? No.
Not possible.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Yeah, I love it too, and it's like and I kind of I beg to differ there. I think it's effective, but I don't think it's kind of it's something that's kind of production ready per se. So it's kind of this works on my computer kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I think it's usually pretty effective, at least like time spent.
And it's perfect, you know. And I've been using Price tool Axiom lately, which you just spin up a box in seconds, and now he's building these pre-builds for it. And I just spin one up, do whatever kind of stuff I want, run all these commands. ffuf is one of them, and then with my wordless shit, and I back it up and I shut it down. Work's done. That's all he's doing. So for me, that kind of automation with having tools that I can rely on, wordless that I have curated to my kind of needs, and then one-lining shit out of that. But it works for the needs that I have, because it's usually in engagements, or if you're doing just bug hunting, you're spinning something up. This is what you need, and you want it to be fresh, right? You don't want that sluggish, crappy shit that you've been hunking around for a while. So big results really fast, because this is competitive and you need to be creative. So do all the base stuff first and then go deep.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way that I use it.
All we need is like a proof of concept. It's not like a production-ready system that needs to be able to handle all of these obscure cases. As long as we have a proof of concept, it's probably fine.
Yeah, that's the bliss of the offensive side, you know.
Yeah, we have the luxury.
Yeah.
We have the luxury.
Cool.
But yeah, that definitely wouldn't fly on the kind of blue team side.
I think we're already kind of over time that we normally do, but I don't mind going on if you guys don't mind. So if anyone has any questions, maybe throw it in the chat.
I'm up for it. I can be around.
Yeah.
So, do you have any questions in the chat, though? Have you checked the chat?
Yeah, I think there was something. Let's see. Oh yeah, one about Joona. Do you hack bug bounty now or in the past? What's your experience with that?
I rarely have time for bug bounty. The thing is that I have kids and hobbies and work to do. So,
but you still do like hack the box.
Yeah, I like the challenge. So, I do some bug bounty every now and then. Like I would say roughly like just a few hours per month. I've got a few bounties out of that. I used to do it like just to basically test the features right then, and found something as well. But I really like to keep the skills up to date and to actually tackle something that has an actual ending, like there's something like these hack the box challenges. They kind of provide a good like a pastime activity for me. So
the sweet nectar of the flag.
Exactly. So I'm basically just writing the open source software for people to make bug bounty money and use them for CTF myself.
And we're super grateful for that. It's amazing the kind of contribution that have been put into the community, and being able to, that you're doing, that you're actually maintaining it. It's something that people like myself are very, very pleased to, because tools come and go all the time, and some are bad. I test a lot of tools. I have this show called Bounty Thursdays where I kind of evaluate and test shit and just see what's going on and all, because there's a plethora of things coming out, especially during this pandemic. People's been locked in at home, can't do shit. They finally published that baby that they hadn't been able to do before, right? So boom, scripts come out, codes come out, and a lot of cool things. But what I realize is that some of the things that I really like aren't maintained anymore, or they're not being taken care of. So as long as you're sticking around and you're doing those kind of tweaks and updates and making sure that it works in the latest build or of Go or wherever, it's the community is very, very grateful for that. I just want to express that thankfulness.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and I also think that in your future job that you're starting in August, hopefully, we can support that initiative, like the tools that you create. So just keep on doing it. And what I mean by that is that partly probably during work time as well. So why not?
Well.
Have you talked about the thing that's happening in August? Is that official?
Yeah, it's official.
Yeah. So I will be starting in the Visma product security team with these guys.
Yeah.
That's pretty fucking sick. I'm jealous though.
We caught the big fish.
It'll be cool. I'm
That's
really
gonna be cool. I'm happy
looking.
that you guys are doing that. It's gonna be a good setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the kind of the thing there, I kind of have conflicted thoughts about the bug bounty. Like in general, you know, I think Visma is doing the right thing, like actually publishing the thing, the findings to kind of to make the public knowledge, to add to the public knowledge. But I feel that not all of the participants in the so-called bug bounty community are,
Yeah.
and
Transparency.
You mean like companies?
the other companies or the hackers, because of course, like people have their own techniques that they kind of want to keep secret because there's money involved, and for some people the money is actually the livelihood, so that's the only income they have. So it's kind of a uh, like a
Don't reveal your
I-
secret source.
Double-edged
yeah.
sword, maybe.
Well, you could actually you could reveal the secret sauce. You can say what you're using. It's like let's say that you're making ketchup. Everybody knows that's kind of just tomatoes and sugar, right? And some vinegar maybe if you're lucky. But the right amount and the tweaks and how it works and if you're having preservatives or not or other kind of stuff, that's the modeling. The recipe, it's going to be very unique, and this is something I'm struggling with as a bounty creator, because I want to share everything, but some things I can't. I'm on NDAs. I'm on. There's not even the possibilities for a friend DA. The companies are very, very strict when it comes to signing these kind of things that you're like, okay, they're gonna fucking kill me if I just accidentally say something, and you will end up in a situation where you really want to kind of express something that was cool, but you can't, and because it's not CVE material, but it's a pretty fucking cool thing. And
Yeah. So
That
actually,
is something we really go ahead, Joachim. Yeah.
yeah. So transparency is like one of the really strong. Well, we are really strong advocates of transparency. So we publish everything. So maybe that's part of what attracted Joona to us. But
Like we are
so,
sharing
for example,
everything on-
I have a from our current private bug bounty program. I'll give you a treat. We have a super cool bug by 2 hackers, which it was a critical, and this was a request smuggling taken to the extreme, where they could actually extract all requests to the server, basically. That is
Cool.
fucking cool. So we're gonna release something about that at some point, and that's really amazing. So I could give you
that kind of research have really just taking off lately, like request smuggling and cash deception and all these, like really. There's been some really good payouts lately in that space where you're actually fucking all this cloud shit up.
And we received quite a lot of positive feedback. So a couple of years ago, the company was hacked, and we basically released all information that we had, and everyone was like so happy because like for 20-30 years all companies have like trying to cover it up. Then you used to say like there is 2 companies, the one that has been hacked and the one that doesn't know it. But after we published all of this information, a lot of companies are like, "Oh, thank you for being so open about it and telling about it." And now we also have published our report, because this is things that happen, and it is nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah. And to be honest, these kind of bugs, or I love the way that HackerOne does it. They have this default to disclosure kind of thing, where if something happens in their system, they're very openly about it. I usually talk to Jobert like once a week or so, and he's always talking about this kind of, this bug is going to come out. We're ready to get this released. We got approved from customers, blah, 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 to be able to talk about it. But they are by design in default to disclosure. And I think that's really, really, really cool. But to be really honest, most of the breaches isn't that like just bad fucking passwords and somebody just gets a database, right?
Yeah. Most of the time, yeah.
So
but we still have a long way to go. As you say, most of the time it's those easy things. It's not the Hollywood hack with the super advanced ones. It's like admin passwords that's like the most common one, or using a old component that you haven't updated with a CV or something like that. It's not these super advanced ones. So we still have a long way to go. Everyone knows what they are supposed to do. We know we should be patched the machine like forever. Everyone knows that. But I think we have a long way to go when it comes to culture and mindset to actually get this understanding that security is something that everyone needs to do in the company. You cannot just hand it over to the IT department and rely on them to patch it. Like managers also needs to be aware of this. Like,
I've also heard that there's a second kind of story to what actually happened, which is not in the report, and there was some kind of a spy that seduced Per, and then some shit happened, and I don't know what else happened, but somehow they got in. So I don't know if it's true or not, but there's a rumor.
At least it will be a cool story. More important, probably.
And in the end, isn't that what we're living on in the security area? It's like it's getting fucking beers and telling stories, right? That's in the end, that's what we're doing. And then eventually in between there, we're just spending hours and hours and hours looking at screens, trying to break stuff, or sometimes trying to fucking Google stuff. We don't understand how it works. And then eventually it's like, oh yeah, all right. Sick. Constant learning, always staying curious. That's why I'm passionately in love with IT and security and everything that comes with it. Because you can never ever own this beast of a knowledge feast, and because you're always going to be learning something new. Because you're never as like we talked about patching, right? You're only as good as your latest firmware update. That's kind of how it is. Then somebody builds a new one, then it's like, holy fucking crap, that Cisco router that we had didn't work anymore. Oop, problem.
Yeah, that's very true.
That's what Joona, you talked like quite early here on the stream about design flaws. Like, it shouldn't be necessary to update your firmware. It should be automatically updated, kind of like Google Chrome and all of this software are doing, and also Microsoft is moving into that.
Yeah, that's exactly the thing. Like the best encryption is the default encryption, like strong encryption per default. Kind of a comparable thing, but yeah, everything like we have like a huge issues that we need to solve here for the actual like end users. I don't think it's fair to expect all of the end users to actually manually do things like software updates, things like that. We as a professionals need to figure out the way to actually solve these kind of issues, because we know the impacts, we know the reasons, and we know how it should work. The problems are like they are hard ones. There are no like free solutions for this, but I think it's kind of our job to figure that out instead of laughing at people running old software.
Yeah, we never try to point finger, because that is just human. Like, we all make mistakes.
Absolutely. Super important, but just for the fun of it, they smashed like Windows XP into Shodan for a second, and it's like, oh, there's a lot of XP machines in China running on the internet, and one thing that I've been thinking about lately, like you're talking about the automation and taking care of the systems and updates and so on. Legacy is the problem. There's usually this. I can't get over to my dad's house and say, "Hey, buddy, how's your new Unify router self-updating itself?" He's gonna have a vintage fucking Asus shit sitting in there that's not updating, probably delivered by the Swedish telecom company Telia or something. You know that's not upgrading itself, and he didn't disable UPnP on that fucker. That it kind of came with that default. So. there's going to be, even though I help them out, then there's going to be companies in this situation that have that. And that's what I like about bounties and responsible disclosure and all that, that at least now people like all of you and myself, we can actually poke at stuff, realize shit, and then say, oh, okay, maybe we should fix this. And we can be helping people out and not shaming people.
And bug bounty has been really good for us in our company. Like a lot of our teams, they know that they have this old legacy protocol or whatever, but for some kind of legacy reason, some other customer that haven't upgraded, they still kept this. But once it was reported on the bug bounty program, well, now they kind of got the pressure and they actually had to do it, and they had to tell the customer, okay, dear customer, you also have to upgrade because we need to stay secure.
Yeah, they have 90 days to do so.
But yeah, it's like a you mentioned the kind of Wi-Fi routers and things like that, like a pieces of software, like a computers in China running XP. So even though like the bad thing about these like electronics and things like that is that like stuff gets deprecated and thrown out, contributing to huge piles of waste. That's for the security thing that also gives you a chance to actually make things better, because things are actually deprecating and breaking up at some point. So people will have to get the kind of whatever will be new, and things are progressing so fast that we are still like the oldest stuff that we see a lot in the internet is not kind of that old in a big scale after all. So,
yeah, for sure, absolutely, and most things are, there's always going to be this called like internet noise of worms still running and that jazz that's going. That's part of internet life, right? But the big bandwidth is going to go through Netflix anyway. So. Or Pornhub, who knows? But there's a lot of traffic going through. But I'm curious, and I have this question for you finally. You're starting a new job now. Without being a career person, where do you think this new endeavor is going to take you as a person, like your personal growth with entering this?
Yeah, so I'm expecting to learn a ton of skills that are not like super technical there, and that was one of the reasons. So I had a safe job. Kind of went back to the consultants thing after the EFF contract ended. So I didn't have to find a new place to work. But the issue was that I didn't learn anything from it anymore. So
stagnated.
It was nice. The customers were super nice. The tasks were not that like bad either, but I didn't learn anything new. So because of that, I had to figure out a new job, because we end up like using like a fourth of our time doing work in our life. So it's better be something that's meaningful. I understand that it cannot be like that in the current like society. It cannot be like that for everybody. But and I feel privileged to be able to do things that's like actually like engaging mentally and things like that. But I hope that I will be able to catch up on a lot of the skills I didn't have like previously or don't have, and improve the skills that I might have.
Probably have to learn from you too.
Yeah. We can probably learn from you too, and hopefully we will also, because we I don't know if people have seen that, but we came up with this forensics tool that is utilizing machine learning, which is gonna go open source as well. So maybe we can come up with more open source tools for the community to use. So why not? Maybe Joona is part of creating some of them as well. Who knows? But
Yeah, hopefully. I really enjoy the open source like a philosophy and the community, and I think, well, I do understand that some pieces of software like it cannot be open sourced, but for the many parts can, and that saves a ton of resources and will take us forward, like a huge leaps, instead of everybody trying to figure out like the same thing at the same time.
And
it
especially
also
within
brings
security.
sorry.
Especially within security, instead of thousands of people writing their own parsers or whatever, you can just use a battle tested tool or software that you know has been tested, and it doesn't contain that many security holes at least.
Yeah, it would be.
There's no such thing yet as secure code or flawless code, but at least it has been tested more than if you would write something yourself.
Yeah, it would be another like a web fuzzer, things like that.
Or write your own jQuery or what have you.
Yeah.
But what I also think that open source brings, especially in this domain that we work in, is basically transparency. So for a lot of the things that we do, for example, when we disclose bugs, etc., it's transparency, and it's learning, teaching other people, and all that stuff. So I think open source kind of goes well hand in hand with transparency.
Yeah, and we use a lot of open source ourselves, like a lot of OWASP project. Like we use both SAP, we use this Shepherd, their CTF platform, the Use Shop, and a lot of other open source tools.
Yeah, exactly. Like my kind of professional life. So I've always been standing on the shoulders of the giants. So I have been using like leveraging Linux to like a huge extent. Even when using Mac. So I was using Mac as my primary laptop for like 15 years or so.
What is your current distro?
Current distro is Ubuntu. Actually, I went. Well,
no, it's not. That's bullshit.
No, that's
dude.
true.
It is bullshit because I just ordered you a Mac. What the hell are you talking about?
So yeah, I'm going back to Mac ecosystem for the same reason I have been using Ubuntu in my laptop for a while, and that's like I just like the stuff to work on the computer that I actually use to work. So on my desktop, I have Arch. It's not that like it's not that critical.
I've only used that as a server. So.
And I used Gen 2 for the longest time. That's like probably the distro I have been using for the using the most. The issue with Gen 2 is, and with Arch, is that you have to actually pay a lot of attention to the actual like the underlying OS instead of just your whatever you're working on. Yeah. And that's the main reason I'm looking back to Mac OS or Apple ecosystem in that sense, because they have handled that pretty well in the past.
I think we need to start wrapping it up because I heard some noises from your cat or maybe it's a person that you locked somewhere.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Really cat. Let's see. She went away. So yeah, almost 20 years old. Old lady.
So do you have any final words for our viewers?
Well, let's keep on hacking and let's share whatever we find out or figure out to improve the actual knowledge of the combined knowledge of the community. And even though you think what you have is not like anything like it's something trivial. I still it might be more cool than you think. So
on the same topic, a final question: if you could change like anything to improve the overall security posture of the industry, what would that be? And you can go crazy, like you can replace humanity with robots. What would it be? You can change anything.
Okay, I would so I would fix the really kind of core. So the base to build other stuff on. So we cannot rely on the hardware security at all. So it's like a whatever we have on the software layer does not matter because the hardware can be compromised. I would basically fix that. I would the kind of securing the hardware, so that way we could have like working stuff, like really kind of working secure enclaves and things like that. So
like
then we would have then we would have
self-healing hardware.
Well, that maybe I'm trying to keep the request in the kind of the easier to well, it's still not easy to have and maybe not possible to have, but still
Zach?
like
based on the progress of the last 30 years, yeah, maybe it's possible. Yes, good.
Zach, any final words, questions, final says?
Absolutely not. I'll be super fast with it, and I would say, Joona, once again, thank you for contributing and creating that kind of stuff that you do. It's I'm using your tool every day and thinking about the things that you do, and it might just seem trivial to you that that's just a tool that you created and blah blah blah, but it changed my workflow, and I'm very grateful for that. So thank you for having the possibility to just take me onto this show and just chill out for a bit and learn stuff and to have the discussion. Thank you once again, and good luck on your endeavors on the Visma team.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, Stuck, we should at some point exchange some recipes. By the way, I have a killer Satan recipe. Joachim can attest.
Yes.
Sweet. Done with that.
And I would like
Vegan
to
chef's
end.
plug.
I would like to end the stream with Joona. Please, please tell us what FFUF stands for, and then after you've said that, I can press stop.
Okay, so fuzz faster, you fuckers.
I also have one thing. This is the final episode for this season before wrapping up for some vacation.
Oh yeah, summer vacation.
But we already have some interesting guests for August. Is that something you want to share, Joachim?
Yeah, we're gonna have the gentleman. I guess you guys know him.
Yeah, for sure.
And we're also gonna have Frizz Rock, not the comedian, but the hacker who overthrows governments and kills people. I don't know if you've seen his DEF CON talks, but he's amazing. So those are our next guests for August. So stay tuned.
Thank you for having me, and good riddance. Have a good one. Good midsummer.
Yeah. You too, and thanks for coming.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Cheers.